My name is Joseph White. I'm from Jessup, Georgia, a little small town in southern Georgia. I had an undergraduate degree from Berry College, a private school actually in North Georgia, in biochemistry with a minor in psychology and One Health. What drove me to medicine was actually an event that occurred when I was about 8 years old. My father, who suffered from recurrent seizures, he collapsed one morning, and it was quite unfortunate. I wasn't really aware of what was happening, and my mom, she ran to his aid, and it was a very interesting and unknowing event that occurred, but he survived and everything of that nature. And after that moment, I wanted to get into a place and pursue a career where I would be able to have the knowledge to help someone in a situation like that. And after numerous trials between certain careers of choice, I've been attracted to medicine. I did certain research projects, in particularly cardiovascular fields of that nature, and until I ended up in wanting to pursue medicine. So the reason why I chose this route of pursuing a medical degree in the Caribbean, particularly for one, I come from a rural area, being a first-generation student. Parents never went to college, and finances were always something that was a detriment in moving forward in secondary education. And for me, I didn't want to be a further burden, so I pursued medical schools which had accreditation as well as a reasonable tuition that I could see myself paying off within a reasonable timeline. And St. James actually presented itself with a very affordable, particularly St. Vincent campus, a very affordable tuition, as well as the accreditation, which was quite appealing. And actually one physician that I've noticed prior to coming here was actually Dr. Luars. He went to the Anguilla campus. He's actually currently in internal medicine pursuing the cardiovascular route. And that's one guy that I've certainly been doing my research on and kind of pursuing his track, and seeing that he successfully went through this route and became an internal medicine physician with interest in being in cardiology. I thought that was pretty nice, so I wanted to also take those steps and create a path of my own. So when you look at the workload, I was actually comparing this the other day with one of my buddies. The maximum credit hours that you can take at my university was 18 credit hours, and you would have to get approval from the dean of the school to get up to 20. Currently as an MD2, we're working with 31 credit hours, and that includes physiology. We have biochemistry with genetics, as well as neuroscience, and that adds up to a total of about 31 credit hours. And managing that workload, I think I go by this one phrase that I use: proper preparation prevents poor performance. So prior to starting my MD2, I lined up my schedule, I lined up the syllabus. I asked for the syllabus in advance. All the books that I've needed and resources, I lined it in a Google Drive in each folders. And I went through it kind of briefly, figuring out what I needed to know by a certain time period within the week. And I set out my resources ahead of time. And that's what I've been trying to guide myself through week by week, day by day, lecture by lecture, in order to manage the workload. So a typical day, our courses in the MD2, we start at 8 o'clock and we end at 3 o'clock, except on Mondays. I forgot to mention this course, we have a CCBS, which is a clinical science of the clinical correlations of basic sciences, which we have once a week. We meet on Mondays, and on those days we meet from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But normally we have 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we start with our physiology course from 8 to 10. We next transition to biochemistry and genetics, or biochemistry solely, at 10 o'clock. And on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we also have neuroscience. Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, we usually have our genetics courses. So as an MD2, we usually get out 3 p.m. So that's a great question. Additional study outside of the classwork, I'd say I do an additional 5 to 6 hours after the 8 to 3 time period in order to stay on track of what I want to do. Actually, this past year, I'm starting in January, I added started another degree, MBA degree, which Franklin has this bridge through St. James School of Medicine, where those who are interested can pursue a Master's in Business Association with a specialization in healthcare management. And I actually enrolled into that this past January. And I typically, on a Friday, I go out with my fellas and we play basketball at the local courts and kind of get to know a little bit about the natives and, run a game of some good basketball. I also joined a church recently this past Sunday, so I try to attempt to go to church and enroll into getting to know people in the neighborhoods. And I would say my plans for the future, short term, is to get through MD2 and successfully pass also MD3, MD4, MD5, prepare myself for the comp exam as well as passing step 1. A little bit long term after that, I also want to go into internal medicine with an interest in possibly cardiovascular diseases. So that entails, non-intervention anywhere to electrophysiology. So honestly, if this is something that you want to pursue in medicine, I'd say know your why, align yourself with what put you into a position to, consider that, do your research, and honestly, like I said earlier, proper preparation prevents poor performance. So do some shadowing with some doctors in your local communities, find out what they do, figure out their day-to-day ins and outs, figure out what the balanced lifestyle is with work and, the lifestyle, to kind of get a sense of this is something that you want to pursue.